Hey, what's going on, guys? You are listening to Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask four great questions to unique and interesting people. Up here today on Talk4 is your host, Louis Skupien. That's me. And our guest for today, Paul Monaf from Ebcon Publishing. Paul, please introduce yourself and give us a quick rundown of what you do before I shoot some questions.
Okay, hi. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm the managing director of Ebcon Publishing, the company behind Airsoft International. We also publish three other magazines, but AI is by far our biggest and oldest publication. She's now 18 years old,
Mm.
and formed Ebcon Publishing, and other magazines have really come off the back of AI. To the point that we do two military magazines and a sim racing publication.
Fantastic. No, it's very interesting what you do. And in this day and age with mobile phones and social networks, connecting everyone, I think it's very interesting to see how a magazine-based company involving in publishing is, making such a strong headway in the scenes that you're doing.
That's an interesting observation, and a question that we've been trying to answer for the last 8 or 9 years. Thankfully for us, our subscribers and our readers want the whole paper experience with Airsoft International, whereas our military magazines that were paper are now purely digital formats. But we still have a strong subscriber base on that. But the age profile of our readership on AI would suggest that they're into the whole digital thing, but it's completely the flip of that. They'd much rather have a paper publication that they either subscribe to or buy the magazine from the news trade or buy single copies from us.
Brilliant. I think well, obviously the plan for today's podcast is when we're going to ask four questions about, your business and how you do things. So hopefully we can get a better picture of what you're doing, which is getting such a positive response from your viewership.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Ask away.
Fantastic. Yeah, cool. So for question number one, having read several issues of your Airsoft International magazine, it's apparent that its design, content, and ideas are all produced professionally and with care by what is clearly a great team of talented people. So my question is, how do you seamlessly get all the different aspects and jobs your team do to flow together when doing something as complicated as this? Is it about communication, routines, or like-mindedness?
All three of them, really. My life, because I work across several of our publications, is spent on a 2 week cycle. So I have deadlines every 2 weeks. And within that 2 week cycle, I am either writing myself or doing the majority of the photography. But then I have freelancers that contribute to the effort of supplying editorial for those publications.
Mm.
And my freelance team and also my staff employees have been with me for a long time. So Ben Dickey, our design director, has been with me now for 15 years, I think.
Impressive.
Yeah, Connor, the editor of Gear Up and Radar, admittedly is my son, but he started working for Ebcon Publishing when he was 13, and used to write a column in Airsoft International called Young Guns, and has grown from there. And whilst taking a degree in English at uni, which he got a 2-1 in, is now taking a master's, but still continuing to write 100% of Gear Up, 90% of Radar, and about 20% of Airsoft International.
Brilliant. No, it's clearly a very strong team you've got going, because the quality of the magazines are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, having read a few of them, like I said, every page has had something that jumps out at you on them, and it's always interesting content. So it always begs the question of how do you get the team of people that you're working with and working on the magazine with to produce that quality in such a seamless fashion? Because obviously it's not a one-man job, but at the same time, how are you able to get this team of people to coordinate the jobs that they do and the tasks so efficiently? Because obviously when you have something that's complicated like this, it's not always easy to get everyone on the same page and the same wavelength. So from your answer so far, it sounds like you have a very connected team with like-minded attitude towards what you're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. They're very conscious of their deadlines. And if we take Airsoft International, which is our only news trade publication, we have to deliver the magazine into the news trade on a particular date, and I'm contracted to do that through my distribution company. So if I don't deliver that magazine for distribution, then there's ramifications on the magazine going on sale late, on paying extra trunking charges, and also the window of opportunity, if that's the right word, where people know that we're on sale on a particular day and will go into WH Smith's within a finite window to buy it. And if we're not there, obviously they can't buy the magazine. And would they go back at another time? Possibly not. So we lose sales. So it's very much a revenue driven thing from that aspect. But everybody knows their deadlines a year in advance. And we sit down, I'd say quarterly, to discuss deadlines, obviously allow for staff holidays, address issues that may come up in the future, but know that I have to deliver 100% of my tasking on a particular date within a particular calendar month. And if I don't do that, it has a major knock-on effect for the production schedule of all our publications.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you say there, because it's clear now, obviously, that planning and the deadlines is vital to what you're doing, because in a subscription-based business where it's not done off single sales so much, I know obviously you sell magazines separately as well, but for the big subscription base, obviously the key is to have those deadlines and have that scheduling and planning in place so that everyone knows what has to be done by when, and then be accountable to that as well.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if you isolate Airsoft International as a standalone publication for a moment, out of a 4-week month, if you will, 2 weeks of that month is dedicated to delivering editorial bundles to my design team. And then the second 2 weeks is the design process to turn those design bundles, which are Word documents and high-res photography, into print-ready PDFs that we send to our printer, who then produce a magazine and deliver it to WH Smith's Wholesale, who then trunk it through the whole of the UK with WH Smith's into the news trade.
Fantastic. Very impressive, actually. And no, it's very interesting to see how how the system works with what you're doing. And I think that like I said, it's extremely clear that planning is essential for any kind of subscription-based business. And I mean, I know that if I tried to write a magazine like you do in a month, I'd definitely be struggling. So I can tell it's definitely a tight ship you run, and that definitely commends a lot of respect for doing that.
Yeah, no, after AI is 18 years old now.
Yeah, you're in the swing of it now, aren't you?
Yeah,
You've really got the.
We're into the rhythm of the whole thing, and sometimes of a night, if there's nothing on TV, or I just need to hit a deadline, I'll gravitate to my office and finish something, or I'll go over to the studio and I'll take some pictures, because the more I do of an evening frees my time up on the next day, for instance.
Yeah, I tell you what, we're running quite a lot on question one right now, but I would like to delve into it just a little bit more and ask you, when you first started the magazine, would you say that you were running at that one per month kind of output on the magazines, or did you find that when you when you started, you had to kind of play it by ear slightly and get into that rhythm? Or so was it basically something that you developed over time, that rhythm for it, and that kind of like-mindedness, like I say, with your team towards it?
I've always worked in publishing from a very young age. When I left school, the first job I had was working for a computer magazine, but
Mm.
it was on the commercial side of things. So I was arranging sponsorship, selling advertising, and things like that. And so I've always worked to deadlines because everything has a deadline in publishing.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where my whole life just revolves around deadlines. And working in publishing, you're used to that. So, for instance, if our deadline on the next issue of AI was tomorrow, I may be working up to 10, 11 o'clock tonight to deliver 100% of the Word documents and the photography to Ben Dickey, my designer, who's then got 2 weeks to design it and send it off to the printers.
Brilliant. Actually, question number two revolves actually a lot around what we just said, and it's going to tie very nicely, I think, into what we were just talking about. So let's get straight into that, I think. Ebcon clearly never started at where it was today. I'm sure that the building up the huge subscription base you've accumulated was a long and difficult process over many years. So my question is, how did you start out on the journey? How did you grow the business and get your first subscriptions? Because I mean, I know personally doing Instagram and getting customers, the first few are always the toughest. You know, that they matter the most in some ways. So how did you get your first subscriptions, and how did you scale from zero to something significant?
When I came up with the idea for Airsoft International, I was a divisional director at a big B2B publishing house. And I fell into Airsoft, as the majority of people do, and fell in love with it, but soon realized that with a young family, a mortgage, and financial commitments I had, that everything entailed, I couldn't really justify and afford to play Airsoft. So I always looked at getting my hobbies funded, if you will. So I used to write for a number of model magazines and race car magazines and things like that that used to give me my hobby money per month.
Yeah.
And I came up with the idea of launching Airsoft International, but it wasn't going to be called Airsoft International, and it was going to be published by a different publisher, using me as the kind of masthead, if you will. But it soon became apparent that it wouldn't work with them, because for us, and this might sound crazy, it's not about the money so much. Obviously, we're successful, we make money, but it was about providing a service. And we came off the back of a magazine that launched 19 years ago called Safe Zone. And it lasted for about 3 issues and disappeared. Airsoft International came out, and we came out initially as a bi-monthly publication, which meant we published 6 issues a year, which was allowing me to have my full-time job and do this as a hobby, if you will. And I always believed that we'd have a nice little fanzine that would supplement my income. I could carry on with my career, and yeah, it'd be all good. And then we soon realized, after about the first 2 or 3 issues, that there was such a demand worldwide for the publication that I had to give up my job. We had to take it monthly. In actual fact, we published 13 issues a year, so we come out every 4 weeks. And we've honestly not looked back. It was the right time. We had the right vehicle, and it was just one of those eureka moments that the universe is aligned, and 18 years later, we're still here.
Brilliant. And funny you should mention at the start about how you began by wanting to fund the airsoft yourself. And I can wholeheartedly agree that airsoft is the drain for cash, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it wasn't so much that maybe not having the money was the wrong word. I felt guilty about spending the amount of money you need to spend to start in
Yeah.
airsoft. And although my wife was extremely supportive, and she still is today, and she's joint managing director in the business, I just couldn't justify the amount of money. So it was
Yeah.
it was my own guilt trip, really, that led to Airsoft International and the other products that have come off the back of that.
The joys of expensive hobbies, hey?
Yeah, absolutely,
Oh
absolutely.
dear.
But AI's become. I was having this conversation with Sharon, my wife, the other night. Um, AI's a way of life for us, and I know that sounds quite corny, but when you live and breathe a publication for 18 years, it's like one of the family.
Mm, yeah.
And we all love it to death, and that includes Ben, my designer. That includes Nick, Jason, Dave Porter, Nick Patrick, who are all my freelance guys. We're first and foremost all good friends, and that's quite unique, I think, within any company, that we're all good friends and we all get on well. And that's led to the AI 500, which is the biggest CQB game in Europe now.
It's fantastic. And I think what you just said there actually kind of ties into question one nicely as well, saying that, how you guys are all friends. And I think the team bonding and that like-mindedness definitely resonates somewhat and comes from you guys all having that bond and that understanding and truly having the feel of each other's strengths, their weaknesses. And I think
Yeah, absolutely.
in jobs and stuff where it's just kind of professional only, you might struggle to find that kind of team bond, but it's clear that with what you're doing, you've hit the nail on the head there with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's mine and Sharon's business. We're the directors. We funded the business initially. We take all the responsibility. But I've always said to all of my guys, just because I'm the managing director doesn't mean that you can't pull me up and go, what the hell are you doing, Paul? That's wrong. And invariably that happens. And I'm grateful for that, because I'd like to think I know everything, but in reality, it's the furthest thing from the truth.
Definitely constructive criticism as well in any kind of business is absolutely vital for growth and for expanding, I think.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, very much so. And there's times we have we have friendly arguments, and they're quite funny sometimes, because one of us will capitulate, and then we'll come back to it and go, yeah, I gave in because you knew I was right, but I just thought I'd let you win that one.
Yeah, a friendly
It,
favor, let you win the argument. I love it.
yeah, and it happens all the time. And Ben Dickey's a prime example. As far as he's concerned, Airsoft International is his magazine because he designs the publication. As far as I'm concerned, Airsoft International is my magazine because I generate the revenue in it and I run the business. And it's that ownership that makes us so passionate about the end product. So I'll do a group of photography and I'll send it off to Ben. And Ben will come back to me and go, no, boss, that's crap. Do it again, please.
Love it. That's what you need
And
in the team, isn't it?
yeah, that's the way we've always worked. Or Ben will read through an article I've written and he'll come back and go, were you on drugs? Like,
uh,
no, why'd you ask? And he'll go, mate, I'm really sorry, that's terrible. Can you rewrite it for me? But
that's a great way to be. Yeah.
it's there's no hierarchy. That we don't live in a blame culture. And yeah, we've made mistakes. I've made ginormous mistakes. Ben Dickey's made ginormous mistakes, but we learn from it, and hopefully produce a better publication after that learning process.
Brilliant. And going into question three number now actually ties in very well with the previous questions and what we're talking about too. So When it comes to success and having a brand that lasts and continues to grow over time, what would you say is the most important trait or traits in a person to nurture and utilize, which will be crucial in the long run? Because quick success can happen by chance, but something that lasts is obviously harder to achieve.
I think it's having the passion and determination to see the project through, um, because we have so many deadlines per year, per month. It's that dogged determination and passion for what we do that drives, hopefully, people to buy our products, which is evident in the production values that we put out.
Yeah, very clear in what you've been saying as well. That, like when you said about how you feel like AI is, and obviously Ebcon's part of the family in that sense. You've clearly got that passion for it. Where some people going into jobs that they don't like just because of a paycheck or something might, not have their heart and soul in this, and then that the progress is limited. But obviously, with you and your passion towards what you're doing, it's clear that I think personally that you're, like I said, passion is evident for the job you do, and that's really fantastic to see and hear.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, we're not the be all and end all of airsoft or the military world or the sim racing world. We believe that we're putting something out that people will find interesting, and the proof of that is that people buy into the publication by buying a digital issue, buying a paper issue, subscribing. We can't force people to do that. We can't force people to like our Facebook page, for instance, but that is standing on over 500,000 organic likes at the moment and is steadily increasing. They believe in what we do, they like what we do, and I'm extremely grateful that they do, because it allows us to produce what I think are good quality products.
Definitely, and the quality of the product is definitely a byproduct of that passion and that drive to succeed, and to love what you're doing, and really hit those deadlines and go after the goals you set up. Clearly, I'm sure it goes for the whole team as well. After so many years of it, I think all of you are probably very much on the same page in that sense, and you all love it to bits, and you're all going after it, every week, every month.
Don't get me wrong, there are moments, there are days that I wake up and I just cannot be bothered to go back into the office because it was a hard week before or a hard day before. And, Ben Dickey will have the same problem. Ben's just he's growing a new family, so he's got 2 young kids. But we're really supportive to him because he's phenomenal at the job he does. And because I've got 2 grown-up children, we understand the problems, if you will, that causes within his life, and realize that he might not be at his desk at 9 o'clock in the morning. He might want the day off tomorrow. One of his children might be sick, so he's not going to work for 3 or 4 days. And we get that, but Ben also gets it, and he knows that he's got to hit a deadline. So there's very much give and take in everything that we do. And I think that's one of the reasons guys have been with us for so long, because we look after them.
Yeah, yeah, they're loyal to your brand, and you're loyal to the customers and to the
Yeah,
business you're in.
absolutely. And you rightly so, that goes with the readers. I constantly get emails from people and PMs on Facebook going, do you realize I've bought every single issue for the last 18 years, and I'm going to continue on buying the magazine? And that's really nice, and it's really special because they believe in us.
Love it. So for question number 4, which is going to be our last question today, for anyone who is starting a new business, what would you say are the most important things to keep in mind when trying to build a brand that is strong with a good foundation and a loyal following? Very applicable to your business.
I don't pretend to understand that, but I'll give you an insight to how we started Ebcon Publishing. We started it with a bank account, a checkbook, and an idea. For us at the beginning, and still is, it's not about the money. It was about providing the service. And if you got that service right, then of course you're going to make money. Now, we don't pretend that we get that service right day in, day out, year in, year out, but we do our best to produce a quality product that people invest in by buying and becoming shareholders, if you will, in our success.
Very true. And actually, in a funny way, applicable to what I do as my side job in a sense. I play tennis full time, and I've always found that when competing and playing tournaments, for example, if you get caught up in the wanting to win too much and wanting to win the points in tennis, then you tend to get more nervous and more tight about it. But I've always found that when you focus on playing well, then the winning of the points and winning of the matches comes as the byproduct of that, which is exactly what you said about, money versus the service and providing for the customers.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, people set up businesses for a number of reasons, but when you drill down into it, it's because they want to make money. And I completely get that. Or they're sick and tired of making money for a horrible boss. Completely understand that. But if you have your sights set firmly on making money, I don't believe that you will become successful. Obviously, there's the exception to the rule where companies do that. But for me, and okay, it's easy for me to say, and hindsight is a great thing, but it was never about the money initially, still isn't about the money. It was about providing the service and producing a quality product.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul. So before we wrap this up, let's have the shameless plug. Paul, feel free to promote anything you're working on, want people to take a look at, or just something you believe in and want people to see.
Okay, well, I'll keep it to Airsoft International. AI is the biggest selling paper magazine in Europe. We have a great Facebook community. Just search Airsoft International there and have a look, or go to our website, which is ai-mag.com. Off the back of the magazine, we also run the biggest CQB game in Europe, the AI 500. Have a look there. The next game's in April.
Fantastic stuff. Paul, thank you so much for joining me today on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, you're more than welcome, and thank you for inviting me on. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. Signing off for now, guys. See you in the next episode.